Fear is quietly making you smaller than you're meant to be. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to break out of that fear and start leading your family with confidence, even if you don't feel ready. So here's the thing. Most dads aren't failing because they don't care. They're failing because they're afraid. They're afraid they won't provide enough. They're afraid they'll mess their kids up. They're afraid to step up and actually lead their family. And they're afraid to go after the thing they actually feel called to do. And the problem? Fear doesn't just stay in your head. Your family can feel it too, even if you think you're good at hiding it. And I know this because I've been there. For the longest time, I told myself that I was just being responsible. Working the 9-to-5 job, playing it really safe, not taking any big risks, But if I'm being really honest about all of that, it wasn't out of responsibility. I was just too afraid to take any risks. I felt this pull to do more, to build something, to speak, to lead. But I kept pushing it down and pushing it away. All of that felt like stepping into something that meant I could fail. It meant I could look stupid. It meant that, things might not work out. And then I found out that my wife and I were having our 4th kid, and something about that made everything shift. I started realizing that my kids are watching how I show up. They're watching how I handle pressure. They're watching how I handle uncertainty. And yes, they're watching how I handle fear. And you know what? I didn't like what I was modeling. I honestly was choosing comfort over courage. And I was, hesitating instead of leading. I was staying quiet when I felt called to step up. And at some point, I had to be real with myself. And this is the part that hurts because, I say that I trust God, but I was living like everything depended on me, not messing everything up. So, that tension started to hit me hard. I didn't become fearless overnight, but I did start making some different decisions. I started to take steps even when I felt unsure. I started being more intentional at home. I started leaning into the things that I used to avoid. And if you want to know the truth about all of that, the fear didn't disappear, but it did stop being in charge. Before we get to the lessons learned, I just wanted to pause for a moment. If any of what I just shared resonates with you, if you've been feeling that pressure, that hesitation, or that weight as a dad, you don't have to figure out all of that stuff on your own. I've actually started working with dads one-on-one to help them become more intentional, more present, and more confident in how they lead their families. And if for whatever reason you feel like maybe you're not ready to take that step just yet, I also put together a free downloadable emotional reset guide for dads, something super simple that you can use when you feel overwhelmed or frustrated, or just feeling off if you need to transition maybe between work and coming home. Those links are in the description down below. And finally, if you're still here watching, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can stay notified on when I drop new videos on topics just like this. Enough of all of that, let's get back to the lessons learned. The first thing I learned with all of this is that fear doesn't really mean stop. It usually just means it's time to step up. The areas where you feel the most resistance as a dad, those are usually the exact areas that you're meant to be growing in. That might look like having the hard conversation, or taking the risk, or leading your family instead of sitting back and being passive. Fear isn't exactly always a warning. Sometimes it can be an invitation. The second thing that I learned is that your kids don't need a fearless dad. They just need a courageous one. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of the fear. The huge lesson I had to learn is that my kids are learning how to face life by watching me. And not when everything's easy, but really when things are uncertain. When you try something and it doesn't work, when you step up, even though you feel uncomfortable, those are the things that stick with them. The third lesson, comfort is costing you more than you think. It might feel safe in the moment, but over time, it leads to passivity. And passivity doesn't just affect you, it shapes your home. You need to realize that your leadership sets the tone. And if fear is keeping you small, your family is feeling that, whether you realize it or not. Fourth lesson, you don't have to overcome fear alone. For me, this is where my faith became very real. It's not just something I say I believe, but it's something I actually have to lean on. Because in truth, fear only grows when you try to control everything. But when you start to trust and you start to surrender that need to have it all figured out, you start to move differently. And more importantly, you start to lead differently. So here's the question that I want to leave you with. What's one thing you've been avoiding because of fear? And what would it look like to take one step toward it this week? Not 10 steps, not having all of it figured out, just one step. Because remember, you're not just a provider, you're a leader. And regardless of whether you realize it or not, your family is following how you lead. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have zero fear. You just need to stop letting fear make your decisions for you. For me, I've had to learn faith and fear can't lead at the same time. So every single day, it's a choice. Which one's gonna be driving? If this hit home for you, drop a comment below. What's something fear has been holding you back from? And if you're a dad trying to be more intentional, more present, and lead your family well, then stick around, because that's what this is all about.